Hello, and welcome to this episode of the USL Show. And we have a very, very, very special episode for you. As you all know, I absolutely love the Super League. It's appointment television for me constantly, and so we have to talk about the Super League. So we're going to talk to someone. If you see the title, you already know what's coming. But we're going to talk to someone who hails from Arizona, who was a goalkeeper at Wyoming, who is a soccer coach, was the president of the United Soccer Coaches, and was with MLS as the vice president of social media and like fan relations. But you all know her as Madam President, Amanda Vandervort. How are you?
Hi, Kaylor. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
So there's so much to get through. First off, are you exhausted from this season, or how are you?
No, I'm energized. I'm energized. I love it. I've loved every minute of the season, and it's an honor to be the president of this league.
So you started the preseason by going to every single team, and you have not stopped since. What's it been like to see the growth of players and coaches and clubs from literally day one?
Yeah, gosh. It's so, you know what? I was at the Tampa game Saturday night. Tampa Bay Sun hosted DC Power on Saturday night here in Tampa. I live in Tampa. And the DC Power players, I got to see them in the tunnel before the game and then afterwards. And it was quite a moment for me, actually, because that was the first team they played on the road to Carolina in the very first game of the season. And so for a lot of those players, it was their last time kind of playing together because they'll have, a number of players go up to international duty next week, and they didn't qualify for the playoffs. So it was like kind of an emotional game for them. And it was an emotional game for me too, because it was a full circle end of the year moment. And thinking back to where we started in August 2024 to where we all are today, and kind of all the magic and memories that have happened between that really came flooding back to me this weekend. And it was really, really special.
What have your thoughts been on this first season of the Super League? Like, what were some goods? What were some bads? What were things like, man, I wish I knew that before coming into this season. I'm so glad I know it now.
Oof. Let's see. My thoughts and my reflections. I'm gonna have to really write this one out because I feel like this question's probably gonna come hot and heavy here, Kayla, for the next little bit. But
Sure.
let's see. But you get the authentic first reaction on this. Great things. I think the players, honestly, the games were incredibly competitive all season. I mean, it even has come down to the wire on who's actually going to make the playoffs right now. We've got a three-way tie, or like a three-way kind of fight for those final two playoff spots between Spokane, Fort Lauderdale, and Dallas, trying to make two spots. So, I think that's just demonstration of how competitive the season has been, and how every single game has mattered this year. So for me, like that ranks at the very top of how amazing the year and the season has been. Things I wish I knew. I wish we'd been able to get into communities sooner. What we see really successfully. I mean, this is the whole USL, right? We're built on community and built on that local pride and passion. And in some of these instances, we just had to get up and running and going. And if we had, we've gotten into communities and built that fan like fervor as the season's gone on, and that's only going to continue to go up from here. But earlier is always better, and the more engagement, the more time you can get with the fans, I think the better.
Well, you mentioned that fan connection. Talk about the best team in the league. I mean, Carolina seemed to hit the ground running from the very first day. You mentioned it yourself. You were there. So many people there, and they've continued to build. The Trailblazers, the two team, is just doing so well in the W League as well. They have really made a push inside the community. What have you seen from the top that makes them connect with Charlotte and Carolina so well, besides being really good?
Yeah, they're a great reflection of the Western Carolinas, and specifically that fan base in Charlotte. They're out at every like local youth soccer game. They're at the pubs. They're in the environment. They're supporting They're supporting all the other sports in Charlotte. It's a real sports town. So the club has been really engaged kind of across the entire landscape, all, the community there. And I think the fans have really like invested back in the club as a result. I would say they also designed some really cool kits from day
Yes.
one. Their kits have been flying off the shelves, and they reflected, from the beach to the mountains, and like that came to life on their kits. Comes to life in the stadium too. They've got one end of the stadium is like the beach end, where it's like a casual. It's under the scoreboard there, like a casual, like you can get drinks and hang out at the tall boy like tables. And then the other end is actually up at the top of the stadium, like called the mountainside. And that's where they've got like loge boxes and kind of, it's like a different kind of vibe. So they try and really reflect the state in everything that they do, whether it's like virtually or physically, those physical manifestations. And I think as a result, the fans are bought in.
For me, watching the Super League, it's been really fun for a lot of reasons, but there's been more opportunities for women to go pro. For me, I was a graduate of the University of Alabama. I watched the team that made it through the NCAA tournament and made that Final Four run. And there's a lot of players that just keep popping up. For you, seeing players getting chances domestically that they couldn't have before, what does that kind of mean for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's truly special. When I have the chance to speak with players directly and they tell me their stories of coming home to the United States or of getting the opportunity to play, that is probably one of the most meaningful moments that I have in life and my career. And so, yeah, it's special, right? And we have a lot of players came back from, like I mentioned, playing overseas, and they've been able to play. Like Maddie Wolfbauer from DC Power, I talked to her the other night. She said, "You know what, Amanda? Like I played in front of my parents for the first time in probably 5 years.
Wow.
Like that's a big deal to players who've been unable to do so because they didn't have the opportunity in the United States. And then you have players coming out of college who are top players. Look at, unfortunately, Lexi Missimo got injured when she started with Dallas, but she's a top player and she'll be back in form, for the upcoming season. And so a player like that to come out of Texas and come right into the Super League and get the opportunity to play pro again in front of her friends and family in Dallas, a big deal for her. So for us at the league, it's been a pleasure watching these players thrive and seeing them take full advantage of the opportunity to be pros.
Kind of speaking of the opportunity to be pros, I mean, we mentioned the Trailblazers with Carolina since Fort Lauderdale has a women's team. There's a lot of teams that are making that push. Sporting Jacks has their women's team as well, and they're coming into the league next year. How have you felt that W League to Super League pipeline has worked?
Yeah, I mean, the feeling of it's amazing. The actual data is even better. So we've got 60 players. I think it's upwards of 60, if not more than 60 players have gone from W League to the Super League. That's about a quarter of our playing pool in the Super League has W League
Wow.
experience. So to me, the proof is in the pudding, right? Is that the old saying? Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, that's
That
it.
that the W League and the pathway model it's real, and it's you've got. I mean, there's just so many players that have made that jump. I could list them. There's so many that we're incredibly proud of it, and especially those that have excelled, in the Super League. It's been tremendous.
I know for me, the one that was close to home again, I talk about the Alabama pipeline. I'm wearing my Birmingham Legion WFC hoodie. Ashton Repka goes to Carolina, and that was a fun part to see of like, wow, she moved on. She's going pro, chasing her dream. It's so cool. There's a lot of players that, you kind of see, and I'm like, didn't she play for Indy or Tormenta or didn't like it's always very fun to keep up with.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of speaking on just the women's game in total, the one thing that whenever we talk about the Super League, I feel like we get comments and emails all the time is the idea of a US Open Cup for women. Obviously, there's a lot of semi-pro leagues, including the W League. The WPSL is having their own pro league in the third division, I do believe. There's the two first division leagues. Is it possible right now to do an Open Cup? And if so, what would be the Super League's role in implementing it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been vocal about it. I think there should be a tournament for all the women's teams. I don't know that the model of the Open Cup and the way that it is exactly the model that we would want on the women's side. So I think, we need to have a good look at what would work for the women's landscape in the United States, and then put it into action. So I know there's a lot of people that are really excited about the idea of it, and you're right on, Kayla, that we've got two, Division I pro leagues, and then you're starting to see more leagues enter the environment. So I love the idea of it, and I'd love for it to come to fruition. I will say we are participating. Our W League is participating in the Brandy Chastain Cup this summer, which is all the pre-pro leagues, amateur league teams are coming together, which includes four amateur leagues. So the W League, UWS, WPSL, and USASA coming together and playing an amateur tournament, which I think is really cool to see all these leagues playing against one another. And their hope is that helps spark and inspire, a future national tournament that involves all the leagues and stuff. But listen, there's a lot of work to do on that. But people are certainly really excited about the prospect behind the scenes. And I wouldn't be surprised if those conversations pick up steam here pretty soon.
There was something else that we got a lot of messages about, and just kind of wondering. I mean, there was the whole CONCACAF, Champions Cup or Trophy League, whatever they call it this week. And they were like, yeah, Super League's not included. And a lot of fans were like, tinfoil hat, like they're obviously trying to strike down the Super League. Is that just fans just looking for something to be mad about, or is there something to it?
So the CONCACAF W Champions Cup, the final took place this past weekend in Monterrey, Mexico. And actually we had representation there. So Betsy Ha, she's our vice president. She went down and was part of a workshop where CONCACAF revealed or I don't know if they revealed, but they definitely shared and talked about their women's football strategy across the entire CONCACAF region. And all the leagues were represented there. So the Canadian League, the NWSL, the Mexican League, us, and then leagues from across the region. So that was really exciting. And yeah, certainly we expect to be included in the future. And that's something that we're working on with CONCACAF and US Soccer.
Awesome. Couple more things for you. You were a part of a report, the Raising Our Game report, and it's a 57-page report, and it has the indexes, and it's on your website. So go read it. It's a very interesting read. There were a lot of things that kind of stood out to me, specifically like player first actions, a lot of the key findings that you guys found, the general growth, the attendance, and finances of it all. How did that shape the way that you wanted to structure the Super League?
Yeah, I mean, we've used that report in a lot of really tangible ways, actually. But when I think back to that report, so Raising Our Game was written by myself and my colleagues when I was the chief women's football officer at FIFPro, which is the Global Players Union. And so I was part of the women's side of the organization, and we felt it was important to take the player's perspective as an understanding of, where the industry was at that time and where we saw opportunities for improvement and investment. And so when we published that, it was published in March or April of 2020. It would have been the last publication before COVID of basically the state of women's football, which I found really interesting. Actually, then COVID happened. We didn't know where sports were going, where anything was going around the world, right? At that point. And so for me, I can reflect back on that and say, what a moment in time that we kind of encapsulated in this Raising Our Game report, in that the industry had kind of paused in that moment, and it gave us the chance to reflect and build. And so using that report, there's one kind of tool that I've used in there, and it's like a wheel. Basically,
Yeah.
it's we refer to it. There's two wheels in the report. One of them is related to the club environment and what you know what players are looking for from like their professional clubs, and then the other is national teams. So what are the rights that a player would need or expect as part of a national team environment. And so we've used that many times actually as we've built out some of our minimum standards and kind of league structures to understand what are the things that are important to ensure that we have in place for the players. And then how do we build and grow to ensure areas where we might have gaps and deficiencies are improved over time? Certainly. Now, taking that from 2019, though, and combining it with feedback from our players today in 2020 and understanding that the world has evolved. I mean, women's sports are experiencing explosive growth. The investment coming in, for example, we've now got Gamebridge as our title sponsor of the Super League, something that very few leagues around the world had back when that report was created. But now you're seeing more and more the French league, the Dutch league, our league, the English league. There's a lot more sponsorship coming into the game and a lot more investment. So the game has evolved from them, but certainly I would recommend anyone go read Raising Our Game because it is a good look at where women's football was in 2019 and what are those core things that are important to the players.
If anybody wants to look for that wheel that you're talking about, by the way, it was page 58 from
I
your
was gonna say 57, but
right there. Yeah, yeah. So it's right there. So it's 58, and you can find. I mean, it's seriously a fascinating report. I was getting like stuck in and just really enjoying what I was reading because it is really interesting. And part of the growth, and I'm really glad that you mentioned it, was the Game Bridge sponsorship. For us, the big thing for me was multi-year. I was like, yes, stability. This is awesome. Other people believe in the project. What does it mean for the league side?
Yeah, I mean, both things are important. I think the investment is wonderful, obviously, but more so, it's been, I think, Gamebridge's support across our entire organization, and it feels like now we've announced them and we've been involved in a couple of events, and we feel this sense of like Team Gamebridge that is coming now in real tangible form. So I'll give you an example. They have a significant investment in racing, race car driving, et cetera. And the NASCAR All-Star Weekend was in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, 2 weekends ago. So they invited a number of our players out for like a VIP Spire Motorsports, and Gamebridge invited our players out for a VIP experience at the NASCAR All-Star Game. So you start to see some real crossover of sports and sport fans that we hadn't really experienced before within the USL. And so I think that's a really exciting example. And we're going to see more and more of that. So Gamebridge is across, tennis, basketball, soccer, racing, golf. So they're in all the major sport, like a lot of the major sports where fans of the Super League also are, but maybe they haven't been exposed to it before. So it just kind of opens up the opportunity for more people to get to know about the Gamebridge Super League and how much fun it is to watch the league, go to games, and participate in all the things that we do.
Awesome. I said two. I have three more questions
Go
for you, but
on.
really fast. You mentioned the playoffs are here. Like we are trying to decide between three teams. You mentioned it: Fort Lauderdale, Spokane, and Dallas Trinity. All amazing teams, by the way. I'm going to be really sad on whoever's left out because there's going to be a really good team left out. We saw the split have the fall split and the spring split have massive changes. Brooklyn was at the top and now they're eliminated. Spokane looked like they were way out of it. Now they're arguably the best team in the league behind Carolina. What's that been like for you, seeing the kind of dichotomy of essentially two seasons put together?
For me, the most important thing's been consistency. like seeing the teams that have been consistent from August till now. There's dips in the road, but that consistency throughout the entire year, I think, is what has put Carolina at the top. And you could say the same of Tampa, who's now clinched the number 2 seed. So, yeah, certainly clubs that made strategic moves there in the kind of winter break, I think were clever and interesting. And so, it's the first time we've had this schedule in the United States. We love it. We think having the opening game in August and the final in June creates a lot of I don't know, they're great months to have celebratory games in, where people come out, and like we were sold out in Tampa Bay on Saturday night, right? So fans want to be out at games at this time of year. And so we love being on this calendar. We love seeing the innovations that clubs are employing. The winter break was great for the rest and recovery of players, but to your point, galvanized some of the teams who needed it at that period. But for me, it's the teams who can be consistent all year long and keep the pace, have been have been successful on the pitch too.
What has been your number one all-time favorite part of this year?
Oh, gosh, Kaylor, that's a hard one. My number one all-time favorite part of this year. I don't think it's come yet. I can't wait to hand out the trophy. Honest. I really was a real special moment when I was in Carolina 2 weekends ago for the Player Shield. Mm-hmm. And I got up on that. There's like they put up a scaffolding on the pitch after the game. And I was standing up there with Anna Whitty, who does our broadcast, and she's the in-stadium host in Carolina. And we got up there, and Tim Schultz, he's the president of the club. He like handed me the Player Shield, kind of like, it was kind of like, I don't know, like I had to kind of bend down to get it. And then I lifted it up. No one else was on the scaffolding or on the stage at that time. It was like me and Anna. And I held it up, and without really realizing, like, this was the first time that Player's Shield had been revealed to anybody. Cause I mean, it was in a box right before I walked out there. So I held it up, and, all the fans had come over to that side of the stadium to watch the ceremony. So I don't know, it must've been 4,000, 5,000 people that I was staring at. And I was holding the trophy for the first time, and they all like started like kind of light clapping. And then I think everyone realized that was the first time, and they started cheering. And I was like, I'm giving out the award. Wait for the players to come up here. But it was also really like, I got chills up there in that moment, because I was like, wow, like, this is the first time the fans get to experience this trophy. These players have worked so hard all year. I'm here with a very special woman, Anna Whitty, who's been part of this league from the beginning, as the voice of the broadcast and doing the in-stadium stuff. And for me, it was a really special moment to just kind of soak it all in. And I was really proud of that moment. And now for the big trophy, I can't wait to hand that out June 14th.
Speaking of Anna Whitty, her show, the like game week that comes out every single week on the YouTube channel, is awesome, and I wish everybody would listen to it, because it's must listen for me. So people should be listening to that, by the way.
Yeah, Anna Whitty, Marion Crowder are awesome. They do a great job on the show. So we're going to have a lot of links for all your listeners after this, Kaylor. I feel like the whole description is going to be the Raising Our Game and the final and the Sirius XM show and all the things, and a Peacock if people want to go watch all your games in one place, right on Peacock.
Oh no, people have to consume more Super League content. I hate that for them. Was it like having the coolest wall in like the office? That is the coolest background ever.
Yeah, thanks. So these are all of the captains from the inaugural games, and I had them all signed. Like, I had all the jerseys signed. The girls all signed them. Players all signed them for me. And so those are all the pictures. I'm looking in my camera like it's a little awkward, but yeah, all like this, me and Jordan Listro when she signed it for me, and we took a picture together and stuff. So the only one I didn't have was Claire Constant over here at DC. I have a picture of the team when I went to preseason, but actually on Saturday night, I managed to get Claire and get our picture so that I could put it on my wall. So
Awesome.
yeah, listen, the players are they're the lifeblood of this league, and they've worked so hard all season. There's nothing I could think to put behind me that I would be more proud of than the athletes who've given themselves to this league and been part of building it from the ground up. So yeah, thanks.
Last question for you, and this is the question we ask every single guest that comes on, and we close every single show with it. When you go home and you're done with USL stuff, is there a book or a TV show or a movie that you've been watching lately?
Oh, Taylor, you know what? You're gonna. My PR team's gonna hate this answer. No, because I'm trying to figure out TikTok. I'm trying because listen, all of our players, they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok. And for me, I like to understand like what's happening in their worlds. And our fans are all on it. So no, I'm out there trying to figure out like how to do TikToks. I won't be dancing on any of them anytime soon, but I am trying to figure out like how it works and how anything can be to make anything interesting on it.
That's incredible. We've never gotten that answer. That's awesome.
Oh man.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for hopping on. I know you're very busy, so I really do appreciate you taking the time. Congratulations on this season. I know it's not done yet, but it has been incredible. I have loved every single minute. I know there's been so many hours behind the scenes, and it's paid off. It's been amazing.
Thank you, Kayla. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your coverage, and to all the guys on the show all the time. You know, we're always listening to the show in here and appreciate everything you guys do. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on today.
It's my pleasure.